Aram, thank you for joining us today. You just returned from the Middle East, in particular to do some investigating and looking into what is going on in Syria. Reports indicate that since the uprising, there's been more than 5,000 people killed, countless injured. What can you tell us about the situation on the ground and what the military is doing and what Bashar Assad's role has been?
Well, thank you for having me, Andrew. One of the big problems we're facing in Syria today is that there is no definitive way to get a clear sense of what the truth is in terms of the security situation, in terms of the balance of force between the regime, the opposition. What started out as a very peaceful and well-founded uprising has become a mess that we have to now manage at the international level. You have regional actors like Iran, like Saudi Arabia, like Turkey that are also involved in Syria. You have international players that we haven't paid enough attention to, in my opinion, such as Russia and China and their interests in shaping events in Syria. You do have a militarized policy of repression in the country that's led to the fatalities you mentioned. And now you have an opposition that has transitioned to what is essentially an armed insurgency, with pockets of instability across the country, especially in some of the northern areas close to the Turkish border, but also within the Sunni hinterland of the country near Hama and Homs. Now, there has been an escalation in the violence, but there's been a plateauing of sorts in terms of the ability of the opposition to gain ground. They haven't been able to marshal their resources effectively. There isn't the level of international support that one would expect from a decisive counterweight militarily. The military in Syria has seen some defections, but by and large, the force remains committed. The elite units, which count in several tens of thousands, are committed to the Assad regime. They realize that there is no future for them in a post-Assad structure, and they have been rotating with less capable units to maintain security and moving from part to part of the country in order to stabilize the situation.
Since the Arab League monitors got there, there's been some 400 deaths, so obviously the trends are continuing. What does it take for the UN to install peacekeeping troops, or the United States and our allies to get involved? What would it take to do that?
Well, part of the problem of the Arab League is this is not exactly a democracies club. These are regimes that have an interest in shifting Syria away from Iran. They are deeply suspicious of Iran's hegemonic interests in the region and Iran's ability to mobilize Syria in ways that undermine their interests in the region. But that goes against the reality that anything the Arab League does in terms of referring Syria to the UN Security Council, taking harsh measures that frankly could come back down the road and have problems for them as well in terms of International Criminal Court, in terms of the UN, in terms of Western pressure for democratization, opening up closed political systems in some of the rich oil monarchies. It's a very slippery environment for, frankly, what are mainly conservative oil monarchies. And those are the forces, such as Qatar and Saudi Arabia, that are driving much of the Arab League impetus on Syria. So it's very catch-22, and they face a lot of challenges. Now, as for the United States, there's no appetite for military intervention in the Levant. Libya was complex enough. We also know the experience of Iraq. Syria is too close to the epicenter of the Arab-Israeli conflict. It is too close to the intermeshing of post-Ottoman communal divisions between Sunnis, Shiites, Maronites, Druze, and any number of minority groups we can think of, including the Kurds, which present all kinds of challenges for Iraq, Iran, Turkey. The bottom line is that intervention has its merits, but there are real risks, and there are real risks to the stability of countries in the region. And it would require a level of commitment that, given the period of austerity we're in today, one has to measure very carefully.
Aram, thank you very much for your time. Fascinating stuff, and thanks for bringing back insights from the region.
It's a pleasure.